Can Kune Kunes live with goats? G'day there, I'm Dana from Pewalkaka Valley Homestead. Today I want to talk to you about Kune Kunes and keeping Kune Kunes with other animals. But if I go down to where the Kunes are right now, they're just going to make a whole lot of noise and you're not going to hear what I'm saying. So I'm going to sit up here, tell you what I want to say, and then I'm going to cut in some bits of the footage of the actual Kune Kunes themselves. When we were looking at getting Kune Kunes, one of the first things I wanted to know was, can you keep Kune Kune pigs with goats? And the reason I wanted to know that was because we have about 10 acres. Most of it is really steep, it's gorsey, and we have not yet fenced most of it. It's got outside fences but no inside fences. If you don't know what gorse is, it's like a plant covered in hypodermic needles. It's the most unpleasant plant you've ever met, and we have lots of it. And gorse, goats like eating gorse. They're weird, but they like eating it. So that's why we have goats. I mean, obviously for other reasons too, but that's one of the main reasons we got goats, not sheep or cows or anything else, was they don't mind the steep terrain and they eat gorse. So the couple of places we do have fenced is our orchard, our food forest, and one little paddock up the top. And so we have this one little paddock that we originally put in so that our goats, when they were having their babies, we could keep them confined up there so that we knew where they were, especially the first time mums. They're not so good at having their babies in the shed. So we made this little paddock. We do have plans for more paddocks, but finding the time and having the ability to do so, well, you know. So one day we will have more paddocks, hopefully soon. The digger driver is here. He's going to make us a road that goes all the way down our property and hopefully clear us a couple of fence lines, which will be really helpful for getting some more paddocks in. But I digress. The reason we wanted to know whether we could keep goats with pigs is because we wanted to be able to keep them together, at least part of the time. And the answer is yes, you can keep them together. However, as my friend Luke from Feather and Down Homestead found out, you can't keep them together when the mums are having babies. Unfortunately, a hungry pig will quite happily eat a baby goat, especially in those first couple of hours when the goat can't get up and run away. Now the problem with knowing this is the one reason we had that little paddock was to keep our goats in when they were having babies. And now it's our, and it was going to be our pig paddock. So what we decided to do was, one, we've made a bigger pen area near the goat shed so that when we know a mum is about to have her babies, we can keep them in there. They still have access to grass and water and shelter and all those sorts of things, but they're not in with the pigs. And it also meant that our goats we now have out in the 8 acres that aren't fenced, and our pigs are split. We have them separated. We've got the feeder pigs up in the top paddock where we give them special feeder grain, and they're growing. They will be for the freezer. And then down in our food, in our orchard at the moment, we've got our breeding pigs. So at the moment they're young and they haven't had babies yet, but the plan is to be able to breed those 2 girls to the boar. So having multiple places we can keep the pigs is really helpful, and they actually get on quite well with the goats. The goats are quite wary of them, which is okay. The pigs are fine with the goats, and that's what I found with most of the research I've done, is that Kune Kunes get on fine with other animals. It's whether the other animals will tolerate them. Horses are a classic example. A lot of horses are terrified of pigs. However, the pigs don't mind the horses. So if you get a horse that's used to pigs, then they'll get on really well as paddock mates. It's always best if you have a Kune Kune to have more than one. So ideally you'll have 2 or more Kunes, but they do make quite good paddock mates for a lonely goat or something like that. At the moment down with our Kune Kunes, we've got our ducks in with them. They're in the orchard area together. That kind of happened a little bit by accident. The ducks got in there and couldn't work out how to get out. But it's actually quite good keeping them contained because they're both as messy as each other. They both love having water around. They both just make a mess of the place. So they're down there together, and it is for the most part working. The only downside is, 1, the pigs are eating the duck eggs, and 2, we did have one of the weak ducklings went missing. So they were fully feathered by that stage. but we do wonder if maybe the pigs did it. But we called him Derpy. He was little, he may have had a heart condition, he may have died anyway, we're not sure. We currently have a mother duck nesting, and she has very cleverly escaped the orchard and gone off to nest somewhere else because these pigs do eat the duck eggs. Pigs are generally relatively clean animals. They will poop in one place if you keep them in a pen. They do not poop or pee in their bed. The Kune Kunes are great. They don't root the ground very much. Some of them do, some of them don't. Ours are not too bad. They do root it a little bit, but it's not too horrific. And the ducks enjoy it when the pigs do that because they can get into the worms that they couldn't otherwise access. We have got a few different videos on Kune Kunes, which I will link in one of the corners up the top there for you to have a look at. I'll take you down to have a look at the pigs and ducks and how we have them set up. So this is my food forest area. It has some young trees in it that are sort of only about face height. I grew them from grafting. And for the most part the pigs are pretty good with them. They have knocked over a couple, which is a little frustrating. These are our ducks. They're all molting at the moment. They're getting their final adult plumage, so if they look a little bit rough and ready, that's why. And so this mess at the moment, they are all having a grand old time playing in. My husband's got a digger at the moment, so he's going to come and redig this trench, and that will get rid of all that water. Much to the sadness of the pigs and the ducks, but it will be much more hygienic and a lot less gross. And there's our higgledy-piggledy little pig shelter. It might not look like much, but it is waterproof and windproof, and that's really what matters. And this is the big muddy mess that these girls are having a grand old time in. They didn't, to be fair to them, they didn't really make that mess. I think we're having some runoff issues. I'm not sure if it's from us or from next door or what's happening, but the water's coming this way. These poor chickens in here are coughing a lot of it, so we're going to be using the digger and putting in some drainage trenches. But in the meantime, these guys are like pigs in mud and having a grand old time. The other thing to consider if you're keeping pigs with other animals is the different fencing requirements. So our pigs are trained, to a hot wire. That's not to say they won't run through it if they can. So we have a hot wire around keeping them out of the chicken area, and we have one just off about a foot off the fence all the way along. And the other thing we've done is put this chicken wire. So this is just a standard sheep netting fence, which is generally enough to keep the goats in. We do run where the goats are, we also run a hot wire along the top to keep the goats from climbing over. And so we do that, and then we've got this chicken wire that we've attached to it, and then it bends. You can see some just down there in the grass. So it bends down so the pigs can't get in under it. Pigs are notoriously difficult to keep within a fence, especially if they're not well trained to an electric fence. And ours are, but only if they can't run it. If they can run it, they will. So it's not so reliable just to be able to just run a hot wire with these guys. They will just run straight through. I think because the Kunes are a little bit hairier as well, I think that must be a wee bit insulation and nary, if that's a word, so it doesn't sting so much. But the other thing is, once you've got yourself some goat-proof, pig-proof fences, you can pretty much keep anything, because if you can keep both pigs and goats in, well, you're doing pretty well. I hope you've liked that video. If you have, hit the like button, and I will see you in the next one.